Hello, hello, hello. We are back in the room. Indeed, we are here. It is Tuesday. It's another Tuesday. Where do all the Tuesdays go? And there's no one here. There's no one here because I didn't set up the live stream beforehand. So I've gone in dry. But all the viewers they're running. They're running in. They're running to catch the live stream. Here we go. So how is everybody? Is everyone good? Good. I've had this rotten cold for about 5 days now. And it's a very peculiar cold because it kind of comes and it goes. And I have a bit of a runny nose. And then I feel alright. And then it kind of resets itself and I start back at the beginning again. It's probably the vid. I've probably got the vid, but I'm vaccinated, so that's probably why it's manifesting itself. Bjorn's in. He's Bjorn again. He says, "Good evening, Darren. Missed last week due to holiday." Not good enough. Not good enough. That's not a good enough excuse. Oh, I hope you had a good holiday anyway. No holiday for me. I'm just always here. Always here. You know, just hanging. Got nothing, nowhere better to go, so just hanging around really. But yeah, it's a funny cold because I keep having the sniffles and that, and feeling a bit crappy in the mornings, and then during the day I feel a bit better, and then it all resets. Mrs. has been the same. Yeah. Bill says, "Sounds like COVID, I'm afraid." I feel fine though. I feel absolutely physically fantastic. I don't feel ill, if you know what I mean. It's just more like a runny nose. It's like a persistent, dribbly, and then it's fine, and then it's back again. But I can taste, I can smell, I can see, I can sing. I can live, I can love. I'm not inhibited by this illness. It's dragging on. It's annoying me now. It's dragging on, and I'm annoyed. But in the mornings, I feel a bit shivery and shaky. And I usually feel all right by about lunchtime. Mrs. has been the same. So, but I think she's slightly ahead of me. Herb started it. It's all Herb's fault. He started it. Andrew's in. He says, "Evening. We're here again on the live stream. Oh, we're packing him in. 6 viewers. Packing them in. I've got a feeling it might be a bit of a quiet one this week. Oh, 8. We're swelling our ranks. Our ranks are swelling. I was watching a programme about art tonight. It was just Jimmy Carr. That's me doing Jimmy Carr impression. And they destroyed pieces of art that were contentious. It was interesting. They destroyed Hitler's art. Yeah, because Hitler was a painter. Yeah. And then he got bored with that, and I don't know what he did. What did he do after? But yeah, it was a very interesting philosophical debate on the merits of art and whether or not we should destroy art created by people who turn out to be not very nice people. Do we separate the art from the artiste? Very interesting it was. What I think of Dishy Rishi being PM, well, he should have been PM in the first place. It was a bloody weird quirk of fate that Liz Truss ended up PM. What I think, well, Boris should still, what I think. I still think Boris should be Prime Minister. I don't think that parties should have votes of no confidence over their leaders and replace their leaders without there being a truly democratic vote in place. If they do that, then they should automatically trigger an election, but that doesn't happen. So I'm of the mind that Boris Johnson should stand and fall on his own reputation and go to the polls. Now, whether he triggers that election early or not, that's up to him. But that is the democratic process. What we see here with the current circus is a completely undemocratic process. But I mean, I only say, oh yeah, get Sunak to do it because he was kind of Boris's, not deputy, because he had a different. He had an act, didn't he have? Was it Shapps? Was Shapps his actual deputy? But you know what I mean. In the old days, the Chancellor was kind of the deputy, because when Thatcher, good old Mrs. Thatch, who watched Ben Hilton on Friday, even he bemoaned Thatcher like I do. It's funny that, because she was a person of principle, even though we disagreed. You knew where you were with Thatcher. Oh, here comes the hot beverage. Thank you, Mrs. Thank you. Do a little bit of politics. Little bit of politics. You knew where you were with Mrs. Thatcher. You don't know where you are with this lot, especially if we've got a rotating door on number 10. So yeah, I think, you know, what do I think? I think our political system is broken. As I've said before, if you think back, we haven't had a leader do a full term since Tony Blair. Even Tony Blair quit and was replaced by Brown, who was then he didn't do a full term. Cameron didn't do a full term. He quit. I mean, again, it was a coalition, so it doesn't really count because it was a coalition government. But he didn't do a full term. Theresa May didn't do a full term. Boris Johnson didn't do a full term, and neither will Rishi Sunak, because he's coming in halfway through. So our political system's broken, and of course the Labour lot, who I suppose I'd vote for, all they say is, we want an election, and the last thing we need at this moment in time is another election, because that will delay the economic instability we've got, or stability. Look, we need a period of political stability, whether it is Labour or Conservative. Having an election now is a bad thing. We need to get through this hump of an economic maelstrom, which again the whole of Europe is experiencing. So if you're pro-EU or anti-EU, it doesn't make a jot. We're all in the same boat. We're all going down the same plug hole, because gee, I wonder what caused it. COVID, the lockdowns, the ceasing of business during COVID, the supply issues that have happened since then, and the war that's happening in Ukraine. And being part of the EU won't make our situation any better. Go and look at the recent International Monetary Fund report that was published a few days back, which says, if you look at the figures, UK's doing all right compared to the other lot, But we're talking percentage points here. It's no great victory for anyone. We're all in the same boat. But no, I mean, on another view, the rise of Dishy Rishi is a good thing, because it shows that as a country we are open-minded and we're not afraid to have people that don't necessarily look like the majority, representing us. I have no issue with a British Asian man in Parliament. It's just a shame Labour didn't do it first. It's a shame Labour hasn't had a female leader, a female Asian leader perhaps. But hey, they're supposed to be the party of inclusivity, but it's the Tories that have actively pushed for minority candidates to take leading positions. That's really interesting. That shows you that they're not the racists. I was listening to Trevor Phillips used to be. Was it race commissioner a long time ago? Used to present the London programme. I used to love that show. He's again journalist. He comes from good journalist stock. He was talking on the radio and saying, well, the Tories have moved on, because again a lot of the old dyed-in-the-wool Tories who you might have had racist undertones, now they look at their families, and multiculturalism has probably touched them. They probably have a grandchild that is mixed race, because again there's a lot of mixed race in this country, and that's a good thing, because it means that we understand each other a little bit better. So yeah, the landscape is changing, the political landscape is changing, and meanwhile the Labour Party are left behind chasing their ideological tail, throwing women under the bus. Interesting. We're in the 21st century, and being a woman is still a political act. Interesting that. But anyway, you've heard me go on about that before. So I don't know. Again, we'll wait and see. What the outcome of this is. It's still early days. It could be that no one, whether they're left, right, or Liberal Democrat, no one can solve the current economic crisis. It could be something that we just have to sail through, like previous. We've had a long period of economic stability. The really interesting thing is, now I've not talked about this before, but the Tories can't be Tories anymore. How so, Darren? How so? Because in the old days, the Tories didn't really care much about. My new prop didn't really. Not his old prop. He was just on my keyboard. Can I balance him on the microphone? No, he won't balance. That'd be odd. If somebody comes in, they sees the bunny face just sitting there. Tories can't be Tories anymore. Why? Because they created a market where they can't really affect interest rates. In the old days, they liked high interest rates for savers, and they're the party of savers. But Thatch and Co. created a housing market which is dependent on interest rates. And interest rates being low, because so many people now have mortgages or property or buy-to-let. There's a whole industry that's grown up out of the the housing boom of the 80s that Thatcher kick-started. And now the Tories can't be Tories, because it's like a massive economic tower of Jenga. If they move one block, the whole thing falls down. And it's all predisposed on having decent interest rates. I mean decent, I've been in favour of those with mortgages and property. Savers, you're fucked. You should have invested in property. And so the Tories can't be Tories anymore. And Liz Truss tried to be an old-fashioned Tory and threw everything into chaos. You can't do it that way. You've got to have relatively low interest rates. But then, again, in the old days, whenever there was inflation, they'd kind of equalise the inflation by raising interest rates. You can't do that now. So how they're going to deal with inflation is going to be very, very interesting, without putting lots of people into economic hardship and onto the streets. I mean, I'm not looking forward to, is it next April, when we get to renew our mortgage. I mean, we're lucky because we don't have a massive mortgage because we're poor, but it's still, it's still not going to be good for us, because we're on the bottom rung of the property ladder here, the very bottom rung. You may think that Lock Towers is a palatial home with an east wing and a west wing and a swimming pool and a place where I keep the crocodiles. No, there isn't a crocodile pit. I wish there was. So we're at the bottom rung. We never kind of out. That's a different story, and then I'm getting off topic. We're talking about Dishy Rishi. Time will tell. Personally, I think he's got one of the hardest jobs in politics, because he's somehow going to have to wrestle the economic situation back into control, and I don't see how he can do it. I don't know how he can do it. Yeah. It's out of his hands. It's an out-of-control roller coaster. And this is why really Boris should still be there, because it's kind of him and Rishi's responsibility, because it was his COVID strategy that's kind of led into this. So we'll wait and see. I don't think, again, if we had an election year, Labour will get in. I don't know what grand plans they're going to come up with, because Labour, again, is always about spending money they haven't got. And again, Truss was trying to do that. She was going to try and deliver all this stuff while borrowing even more vast amounts of money. And it kind of makes a mockery of what Cameron and Osborne were doing before that, the politics of austerity, which austerity politics comes from the EU. Look it up. Don't be ignorant. That is an EU policy, but we may be heading back towards that, because that may be the only way of dealing with this current crisis. I do not know. It's going to be a bumpy, horrible ride. So strap yourselves in. Bjorn says, imagine if Hitler was instead a well-renowned artist by now, like Picasso. Well, again, imagine. This is what Verity said, because I made Verity watch it because she's taken art for her GCSEs. I said, no, I insisted she join me. You watch this. You watch this. And she said, wow, if Hitler had become successful, there would have been no Holocaust. And it's like, yeah, that's right. He was a failed artist. And by destroying his art, my argument was, well, they actually destroyed the painting. My argument was, no, we should keep the art and we should put it in a museum. And we should, because it shows you his beginnings. It shows you that the most inane, harmless people. Again, this was a guy that was painting, it was a picture of a chapel, you know, in watercolours. The most inane, you know, unassuming person can go on to great evil. And that is the lesson. It's in all of us. Possibly, though I don't think it's in me, because I'm lovely. Everybody knows I'm a good guy, you know, a good guy. But it just shows you that evil can lurk in the most unassuming places, and I think by destroying that art, we kind of lost that lesson. So it was a really good, interesting philosophical debate about, you know, morality and artistic expression and responsibility, and yeah, it was really interesting. And I think Jimmy Carr, I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Carr. I think he did a good job of hosting it for once, though he does look like a kind of almost like a waxwork of himself crossed with a Lego man. You know, he's a very strange fellow these days. Andrew says, I guess Asians will be pleased. I think a lot of people will be pleased. I know over in India, they're pretty pleased with it, because they see the UK as being very progressive. It's a very progressive act. I think it's a very positive act. Just think, there's whole generations of young kids, left and right and centre, who are looking at their Prime Minister now going, I could do that. That could be me, you know. And there's not the brouhaha, there's not the fury, like when Obama, you know, became president in America, where he was trying to prove that he was born somewhere else and he wasn't American. Over here we go, it's an Asian fella, you know. And we know, you know, a lot of Asian families have businesses. They have good business acumen, you know, and good luck to him. The same way that in the past Jewish people were involved in politics, and they came from businesses, you know. Again, the Tories had a first Jewish prime minister. You know, it's just they turned out to be the Progressive Party. How did that happen? There you go. So it's amazing. It's amazing how things go. Driver, now are you going to be sensible, or are we going to have to block you? Because we know you are. Thoughts on Kanye? Well, Kanye's gone off the deep end. I've spoken about this before. He's got no one looking after him. We know the guy's bipolar and has mental illness, you know, issues, and there's no one looking after him. What he says is awful, but when you're suffering from a delusional mindset, the guy needs help, you know. And well, I mean, he was doing an interview the other day. He was saying, "Oh, Adidas, I've got Adidas on my side. Adidas won't cancel the contract." Adidas have had it off. They've had it on their toes. They've left him high and dry, and it's not looking good for him, you know. So, and this is a shame, because, you know, in the old days, a lot of artists had managers. I don't think he's got management. I think he must manage himself, because, again, management were there to protect the artist, to stop them doing stupid stuff. It's a bit like Britney Spears's, you know, when she shaved her head and got in that conservatorship. You know, I know a lot of people said that, oh, it's wrong, but you look at what she's putting out these days, you know, she's a couple of sandwiches short of a picnic, isn't she, you know? And so's Kanye. And that's a shame, because these people need help and guidance, and you don't get the management like you used to get in the old days, you know, the guidance. So I don't know, I just hope he's alright, you know. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cold, so if I do suddenly go You know why? It's because he's got the best of me. I'm a trooper. I'm struggling just for the 5 people who are watching this. Oh, we've got 25 in. 5 and 20 people. Remember, folks, 19 of you couldn't be bothered to hit the likes button. Or even the thumbs down button. Come on. Hit me with a load of thumbs down just to show me that you love me and you're obsessed with me. Otherwise, I feel like you don't care anymore. Payne says, good evening. Darren in chat, exactly. Darren in chat. Alex is in. Dan says, Dan. He says, political turmoil is quite logical in Europe. All the Western civilization lives in crisis right now. We're going down. Well, again, it is a result of, of everyone being in lockdown for, or at least lockdown phase for nearly 2 years. The economy's kind of being stifled. This is the first time it's ever happened, I think, in like the modern times. And even when they had like flu outbreaks in the old days, everything carried on. People just got on with it. And now, again, this is the problem with modern politics, is people look to the government and get upset when the government can't save everyone, because the government can't. It's a virus. You can only have personal responsibility, and fingers crossed that the health service can save you, because it's a virus. Boris Johnson couldn't save you. Keir Starmer couldn't save you. No one can, because it's a virus. And that's the thing. And people are quite naive and childlike in their expectation of the government to be. We used to talk about the nanny state, and both sides of the house go, we don't want a nanny state. We don't want to be told what to do. And now everyone seems to be quite comfortable in being told what to do. Oh, but Darren, you get vaccinated. Yeah, that's because I am a convicted diabetic, remember, and I do it because I've got kids and I've got a child who's vulnerable, and I've got to be as live as I can be for as long as I can be. And my experience tells me that vaccination is a good thing. It stops you from dying of silly shit. Like washing your hands stops you from dying of silly shit. General hygiene. Do you remember a time when nobody was clean? Do you remember that? Because people were like peasants, and they used to stub their toe and then die. Do you remember those times? Cool. Well, those were the good old days, weren't they? Didn't have the government telling you what to do. Didn't have vaccinations. If you didn't want to wash your hands and you've been handling pig shit all day and you want to eat your dinner, it wasn't a problem, was it? Freedom. It was true freedom. Oh boy. But yeah, we're all going down together. But as long as I can afford the electricity, I'll be here every Tuesday, vaccine permitting, to annoy and irritate. That's what I'm here for. G-Man says, evening, I listened to my first ever prog album yesterday. Been meaning to check out some prog for ages. I went with the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. G-Man, you have elephantine sized bollocks, because that's where I started. That's my proper true prog album, was that album. And as I've told you before, I got it on cassette. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, and I was hooked. It was like, what is this? And I listened to it every day for about 6 months, trying to figure out what it means. If you cut me, I bleed the lamb. Did you know that? It's true. But anyway, what did you think? Hans is in. He says hello. Hello, dear Locke. Oh dear. He says, I had a nervous breakdown the other week and deleted my Facebook account, but I'm okay. Well, look, Hans, I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully you're okay. And maybe staying off of social media is for the best. If you are of a delicate disposition, because it can get inside your head and it can be a hard world to deal with. We can all be mentally fragile. It can get you anytime. Even tough old nuts like me, flint-hearted, granite-faced old fucks like me, we have dark moments. No, we don't. I don't. No, because I don't feel anything. I've been through all that. I've done all that shit, but I didn't realise I was having a mental breakdown. I've had a couple of mental breakdowns in my life, and I didn't realise it was actually happening. It's funny that it's only when you look back and you go, oh yeah, that time where I didn't leave the house for 6 weeks. I thought I was just being lazy. That time when I quit my degree before getting my honours. I hadn't did my honours, but I missed 1 unit, and even though I had points in hand, it's complicated. I'd have to tell you the story again of going to a college of higher education, a polytechnic and a university, and how their point system is completely uneven. And I argued, but I'd already got enough points. I was having the mental issues because my grandmother had died, and it all hit me, and I tried to carry on, and I just basically collapsed in on myself. And then I had a mental breakdown when I got made redundant. And God, that was awful, that was. And that's so I bought Alex, and he helped me out of it. And I've never had a mental breakdown since. There you go. But yeah, have a good... notice how I made it all about me then. Did you notice that? Because I'm such an egotist. No, I'm doing that to show that we all go through issues. And it can get you. Even any time could get me. It could get me tomorrow, And you don't always necessarily know you're in it. And it can be like a fog. And you feel like you're just moving. You're moving at the normal pace, but everyone's moving faster than you. But you're actually slowing down. It's a very strange time to be in. You don't necessarily recognise it in yourself, and you should remove yourself from anything that makes you feel that way. It's like, don't put your hand back in the fire, hands. Don't do that. Just be careful. Be careful. Right? Driver says, I feel he surrounded himself with yes men. Well, who knows who? I guess you're still talking about Kanye. Who knows who he's surrounded by? Or Ye, as he calls himself these days. Who knows? But he's lost quite a few contracts and burnt quite a few bridges in the last few days. So I'm hoping that once he looks at his bank balance, or projected bank balance, and sees it tumbling, that he might go, ooh, someone might, or he might not. He might just make him even more self-destructive. So we'll never know, will we? But I see where you're leading me. Driver. Don't worry, you will not get any clips out of me. I know you want to get clips out of me, but you won't, because we're not playing that game, all right? Grant says, according to Steve Hackett, when Melody Maker stopped, many musicians' careers were ruined. What, Melody Maker, who used to slag off Steve Hackett? No, look, Steve Hackett, right? I love him to bits, right? He's one of my musical heroes. But he blamed Malcolm McLaren's involvement with Charisma for the end of his own career. No, Steve, it's because you didn't move with the times. The thing about McLaren is he knew music, and they wanted to use him as a touchstone, And again, around that time, McLaren was experimenting with hip hop and sampling and scratching with Trevor Horn. I mean, crikey, his stuff was vital. I'd rather listen to that than to, I don't know, Till We Have Faces. I don't know if that's the equivalent album. Highly Strung. That's probably more the equivalent album to the double Dutch period of Malcolm McLaren. So poor old Steve. I think he doesn't quite understand how you can, what the 80s was. There were a lot of bands, a lot of legacy bands in the 80s. Look at The Who, for example, who just didn't know what to do with themselves. The 80s was a very interesting time for music, because what you actually had, and what Steve hasn't realised, is technology. Technology became at the forefront of music making. Skill, artistry, craft, don't need that anymore. We now got synthesizers, so you have people like Gary Newman. Again, I'm just using him as a template, coming in, and the whole pop rock landscape is redefined by people that are using these big sounds of the future. Very similar to what Barry was doing, with the low album. And I think a lot of musicians just kind of froze like rabbits in the headlight. because progress happened. And now, I guess technology is really odd, because music technology is kind of stalled now. Nothing's really, I say that, but you got me, my juices flowing actually. Whilst music technology is stalled, there's been massive advances in AI. AI is a really interesting part of is it the software scene? Well, the music scene, because you can now extract like the stems from songs. You know that? Did you know that? I'm using one the other day. Again, I don't know if I told you this story. Was it last year? Last year. There's a band called Quasar. They're a little known neo prog band. They had a really interesting album. I shouldn't like it, but it's kind of quaint and naive, called Fire in the Sky. And I talked to their leader via Facebook, and he sent me the stems. I did a remix. I don't think he liked it, because I was trying to make it sound like how I wanted to hear it, not how he wanted to hear it. So, if you want it just to lay flat, you hire Stephen Wilson. If you want somebody to put a little bit of fire under its arse, you hire me. But anyway, there were some problems with the vocals. The vocals were kind of damaged. But I managed to use recently, it was 2 weeks ago, there was this AI site where you could feed in the original track, and it will suck out the vocals, and it was better than the damaged extraction I'd done before. And I redid it, and I thought, wow, that sounds even better. And then I read what they're doing with the Revolver box set, which is out on Friday. If anybody loves me, they'll send me the money so I can buy it. Get a job, you bald bastard. I'm trying. Especially depending what happens on Friday, but that's for another time. I have to wait and see how that goes. Be cryptic, but on Facebook you know what I'm referring to. But yeah, Giles Martin was talking how they used AI on this to extract the individual instruments and vocals from the Revolver tapes, because again they were using 4-track and bouncing stuff down, and because they've got such a wide range of soloed drums, guitar, bass, vocals, they can feed it into the algorithm and it can suck out beautifully crisp stems. And so what you're going to hear on that box set, for those who haven't heard it already, is Giles Martin actually remixing things in stereo. He's actually going a little bit further with this. Again, it's technology catching up, and it's the same excuse me, similar technology to what Peter Jackson was using on the Get Back film, to clear up vocal, when they were speaking and whatnot. So they used that, but in this time with the musical slant. So yeah, Revolver's going to be remixed using AI technology. So that's kind of, that I find fascinating on a production level. That I find fascinating. But music technology itself has kind of stalled. There's been no real, guitars are still guitars, synthesizers are still doing what synthesizers do. There's been no great leap forward, except that you can record on your iPad or mobile phone. You can make a hit song on your mobile phone if you want, such is the technology now. But going back to the 80s, it was a fertile ground. We had, like I say, sampling, scratching with rap. And then we go through the 80s, and the drum machine becomes more prevalent and more sampling, and these legacy artists just didn't know what to do with it, because that's not where they're from. They're from a different aspect of music, and so we had to wait for that to kind of get out of the system. And then we head into the 90s with the return of the guitar bands, and it was almost like to get the technology out of the systems. But again, if you look at the charts in the 90s, there was a good balance between guitar bands and sampling, electronic music. It was a good time. It was a good balance. But Steve Hackett just didn't know what to do with himself, unfortunately. He should have just made several acoustic albums and showed his craft that way, because you can't, like he did with the Momentum album and Bay of Kings album, two great albums from that period, but again, niche audience, only for people like me. Andrew says, I had my booster jab. My arm was sore. Do you know what? So was mine. It was the worst arm I'd had. And I've had loads of. I'm like a pincushion. I'm like that guy out of Hellraiser. The new one. I went there, but yeah, it was sore. Blooming sore. But it was a new. Did you know it was a new one? Did you get the new one? Did you get the new 2022 edition? It's very good. Again, not as spicy as the AstraZeneca one, which made my heartbeat race. Jason's in, he says hello. Napkin says, when's the next album, D-Man? I don't know. Hans says, the kind of choices these days, McDonald's versus Burger King or Nike or Adidas. You're talking about Kanye again, are you? or are you hungry and you need some trainers? I'd go McDonald's, Adidas. There you go, how's that? Is that a good choice for you? G-Man says, I did enjoy the Lamb album. A few tunes were familiar to me. Was I imagining things when I thought I heard Phil Collins and Pete Gabriel share vocals on one song? No, it's not the first time. Again, in that period, with Gabriel and Collins, they do share vocals. They have a very good vocal blend. On Nursery Crime, you hear it. Mind you, on Absent Friends, Phil Collins does sing the whole thing on his own, but they do some interesting vocal stuff, even more so live. So, yes, you did hear that. You were not, Drive says, "Where's Garrett these days?" He's gone. He's not here. He's gone forever and ever and ever. He ain't coming back. G-Man says, "I've noticed the past few weeks." Oh no. Oh well. Goodbye. Bye-bye. If you're going to spam, do that. That's just silly shit. Where am I? G-Man says, I've noticed the past few weeks a number of comments you read out aren't showing up on my chat feed. Okay. It could be that I block the people. I don't know. I don't know what you're seeing. I'm not... I do not know. I do not know what that is. You do know that YouTube is a pile of crap though, okay? So any issues you have, I mean, crikey, I've posted comments on videos and they've disappeared on my own mother funning videos. And you go, huh, where's that gone? Why is it gone? No, everything seems to be there on the chat window. Drive says, me too, G-Man. I'm not getting any of Bjorn's comments. No, yeah, I can see him. That's funny. And that's strange. Let me open a completely unlogged in chat window. Maybe you're not logged in. Maybe there's some weird Firefox. Let's go to Firefox. Let's open a Firefox window. Will my computer be able to handle this? Will Steam come out of the back? I do not know. Let's have a butcher's look. Let's have a look. Oh no, I've got an advert. I don't want an advert. No, that's working. Must just be you. You must have something. You obviously don't like Bjorn. You've obviously got him blocked or something. You've blocked him. You'll have to unblock him. Cyrus is in. He says, oh hey. Thoughts on Return to the Dream Canteen. That's the new Red Hot Chili Peppers double album. You really want me to talk about it? My initial reaction is I didn't do a review because I knew I'd get my ass kicked again. I hate it. They're no good. Red Hot Chili Peppers are just... The last one, I let it through because there were a couple of tunes I didn't mind, but it showed an utter lack of creativity and that spark. Even when they play live, it's just like everyone's going, oh, Frusciante, he's a guitar god. And I'm sitting there going, no, he's not. And then you hear about poor old Josh Klinghoffer talking about how fucking restrictive it was working with them. and how limited they are. And now Rick Rubin is just like, no, we're going to do the same thing over and over again, because it's not about creativity, it's about creating the same sound. It's not about them stretching out. I might have to listen to it again, but to be honest, I don't know if I've got was it an hour and 15 minutes of my time left for them. I'm out. And the album cover as well was a turd. Did you see how many varieties of coloured vinyl they released? Oh God, I don't know if I'll be able to find it. Oh boy, was it Return of the Dream Canteen vinyl variants? Let me see. Oh yeah, there's a picture. There's a beautiful picture that I can download. Wait a minute. I can put it on the screen. Just bear with me. Save image downloads. I'm now going to drop it over my beautiful face. Here you go. Look at that. Look at that. I think there's even more than this. Outside of America. I think. Oh no, there's also one in America. They've done one in America. We can only get certain variants from certain record shops in certain states. Really? And I think they've also done like an international one. It's complicated. There's thousands and thousands of vinyl variants of that album, and you go, that's bonkers, man. That's just crazy. Why would you do that? Because I need the money. Oh, you had the Pfizer. Alright. Driver says, gone? Did you two fall out? Oh, no, he's just gone. He's quit. Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. Look, you'd have to ask him, wouldn't you? You have to. Maybe you should stalk him and pretend to be him. Maybe you should do that. But no. Danny says, hi Darren. What do you think will happen on Dark Side, the 50th anniversary of Dark Side? I don't really care. I'm sure they'll reissue it again. Again and again and again. Who knows? Russell says, how do you think the sound of Steve Hackett instead of Daryl? Sorry, I don't understand the question. Oh, you've asked it again. How do you think the sound of Phil Collins would have been different if he'd used Steve Hackett instead of Daryl? Well, it wouldn't have been any good because Daryl Sturmer is a consummate studio session musician, whereas Steve Hackett is his own artist. So you would have had a really weird Phil Collins solo album with Steve Hackett on it, and it would have sounded a bit shit. Because it wouldn't have fit. That's why, because if Phil Collins had wanted Steve Hackett, he would have got him in, but he didn't. He got Daryl Sturmer in because he can say to Daryl Sturmer, I want this to sound like that and that to sound like this, and he goes, right away, boss. And that's why you hire good session musicians. And that's why he got Clapton in. Oh, and was it Face Value? Because he wanted someone to sound like Eric Clapton on. But thanks for asking. Grant says, weather is changing. I got my booster now. I feel flu every October. Same thing, but your Eno review boosted me up. Love your work ethics. I miss working. Laid off at 54, then pandemic. Cheers. I helped. Oh, well, that's kind of you to say. I a lot of people don't like my Eno review because they think it's wonderful. And that's fine. I don't. I've listened to it 3 times. I listened to it on stream, I listened to it in surround sound, and I listened to it on vinyl. And nope, not for me, unfortunately. Though my review yesterday didn't go down very well. No viewers, no. Though I've got the Daniel Lanois player piano to do. I was going to do that today, but I wasn't feeling it. Because the problem with doing this is it gets in your throat and you're kind of tiggly. I'm a bit tiggly at the moment, but on here I can just go and nobody minds, but it kind of ruins the flow of the video if I'm coughing and spluttering, you know. But maybe I'll do it tomorrow, you know. But I'm all right. I just feel a little bit off, you know. I'll live. G-Man says, question is, where do I go next? Listening with Genesis, bear in mind, I really only know their 80s hits. Well, after that, you can either go to the beginning and don't go to from Genesis and Revelation. We ignore that one. Ignore it. It's not a real Genesis album, despite what people say. Even the band don't acknowledge it. Just go. You could go to Trespass, though Trespass still has Anthony Phillips in it. It's a bit of a weak album for those who are not versed in the ways of Genesis. You might listen to it and go, "Oh, this is a bit weak, a bit pastoral." You might not like it. It hasn't got some of the grittiness and the guts and the glory. Oh God, it's one of those nights, is it? Bye bye. So if anyone's got a little spanner, could you keep an eye on this while I'm doing the chat? Because, you know, we don't want any, you know, offensive messages scrolling up the screen, please. If you could, thank you. Where was I? Yeah, Trespass. It can be. It's a little bit of a weak one, but not in a bad way. In a good way. That sounds. I'm contradicting myself. I wouldn't recommend it to a newbie because it hasn't got the tunes. You really want to go to Nursery Crime, because Nursery Crime is. It is, you know, Gabriel, Rutherford Banks and Collins and Hackett turn up, and it's their first album together, and it's good stuff. It's a good variety of material on there, and I think it's a good one to go to, and then, you know, go to Foxtrot, and then Send in England, and when you've done that, then go to Trespass, because then you can hear their first faltering steps into the more progressive side of their nature. And you'll go, that's interesting, that. But if you listen to it first, you think, God, this isn't for me, you know. So that's my suggestion. So yeah. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Any more? We have 34 in the room. We only have 16 likes. Remember, smash the thumbs down button if you want my attention, if you're desperate for me. Or what else should we talk about? Harry's in. I like Harry, he gives me money. Rest of you sods, not so keen on. So what have you been doing, Harry? What have you been up to? We've got a bit of a weirdo problem tonight. Do. Any more? Or shall I can, yeah, have early night. Wouldn't mind early night. Oh no. Oh, not you as well. Oh man. Bye bye. Bye bye. See, it's you know, we can just, well, all we do is we just mute them. We get rid of them. You see. Hans says, yeah, I love most of Genesis from 70 to 3 Sides Live, and a couple of the songs from 68, 69, and some after 82. So Hans is, he's got a broad appreciation of the Genesis there, which is nice, isn't it? You know, it's good. I just don't like Duke. People don't like it that I don't like Duke. Funny that. Wow, they have so many fake accounts. It's so funny. Impersonation. He's impersonating somebody else. Do. And reported a habitual impersonator who ruins the platform, and you do nothing about it. Shame on you, YouTube. Boink. Grantman says, the show with your children is a great Doctor Who. It's great. Of course it's great. They're my kids. They're wonderful. They're the best thing about it. Excuse me. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But, you know, I don't involve them too often because of this kind of nonsense, you know. Russell says, hi. Andrew says, is it worth buying Revolver Super Box set? Although it does sound very interesting. Is it worth it? I don't know. Have you got the money? I'm interested. I like that album, you know, but it's just expensive, isn't it? Everything's so expensive. Though I could just stream it off YouTube Music because all of it's going to appear there on Friday. And I could just listen to it there for free, which I'll probably do. You know, but I can't. I will this month. Was it next month? Next month, I will have paid off my credit card bill just in time for Friday, which I'm not looking forward to. But we'll find out what happens. So I don't know. I can't. Again, if it was under £100, I mean, I wouldn't mind the vinyl set, but once things start going over £100, I can't. You know, I can't cover those costs because, you know, the YouTube money. Because I use the YouTube money to buy records and whatnot, and so I can talk about them on here and pay off my debts, obviously. So you know, I don't have the traction and the YouTube money that I used to have, and so yeah. But if you want it, you buy it. You got the money. You're not going to miss the money. Then buy it. You can always sell it if you don't. You know, if you don't want to keep it. I don't know. We could always send it back if you buy it from Amazon and using the. See. I see what you did there. I see what you did. You thought, I know. What Darren needs is he needs an excuse to post an affiliate link, and you'd be right. You'd be damn right, sir. For here is an affiliate link, and if you buy anything on this affiliate link, I get a shiny penny. I'm legally obliged to say that by law. Yeah. So there you go. Cyrus says, maybe these spammers coming in are something to do with your privacy settings, VPN or personal info out there. No, Cyrus, that's not it at all. You have not been paying attention, have you, sunshine? G-Man says, don't answer this if you don't feel comfortable, but how do you feel Herb is placed for facing his autism in the teenage years? He's all right. He knows what it is. He knows who he is. But he's disabled. He has issues with certain things, and he knows that. And we've never said anything different. I mean, he said to me the other day, "Oh, you know, I'm never going to get a job because of my condition." And I said, "Well, that's not true, because if you work hard and you get your exams, there's no reason why you can't apply for jobs that you want. And you should apply for any job advert that you like the sound of. And if they reject you, they don't give you an interview, Daddy's going to sue them, because by law, as a disabled person, you're entitled to an interview, and they've got to have good reason not to interview you if you have the experience and qualifications. That's all part of the equality laws. And so Herb, you're going to make us very rich," I says, smiling and laughing. Because that's what I'm going to fucking do. Because I don't think a lot of disabled people realise this. That, you know, if you do have the capabilities to do a job, that's why they ask you. That's why you have to tick a box to say if you're disabled or not. Because if you are, they are legally obliged to consider you. You know, it's all part of the inclusivity laws and whatnot. So there's that. But no, he handles it. He's all right. You know, we don't make any secret of it. We talk about it openly. I try and get him to talk about it. And it's hard, some things it's hard because he wants to be normal, but he's doing all right, He had a bit of a rough start. Again, I don't really like talking about it, but he had a rough start when he went to big school, to the point where they were nearly going to kick him out. And again, because again, they weren't used to the way his autism manifests itself, because the previous school were used to him. So if he said something, inappropriate, aggressive, like "I'm going to kill you all," because they were making too much noise. He hates noise. He'd be escorted from the room and allowed to calm down. Here, they saw it as a direct threat, and So again, even though we warned them, it's almost like they didn't quite understand the warnings we were giving them. This is what he does, and they treat him exactly like a normal child, which I think is a little bit unfair. But we had a meeting, or I spoke to Herb in frank terms, and I told him what was going to happen. So you carry on doing this, you're going to the school with the other children with special needs, and you won't like it there, because they won't be like your regular friends, and they won't be into the things that you're into, because they will be worse than you, and you better straighten up. Because if you don't straighten up, that's where you're going. That's where they will get rid of you to, because they will not want to work with you anymore. And he straightened up, and he did a 180-degree turn, and the teachers were all amazed, and he's been doing really well, and getting achievement points and whatnot, and doing really well in his tests and that. And he's turned things around, and I'm really fucking proud of him, because it's all on him. I tried to tell him, it's all on you. You're the only person that can do this. I can't help you. I can help you up to a point, but this is all on you, and you've got to learn to be able to be aware of your condition, and when you're feeling stressed, because you have all the tools there to leave and calm down, and there's a room you can go to and whatnot. But he wants to be independent, and this is the problem. And this is something we talked to with the other Senko about emotional maturity. And I've always said, once he gets emotional maturity, again, we all go through this. There's this point in our lives, I don't know if you remember, there's a point around 10 or 11 where you suddenly get a sense of self, of self-autonomy, where you want to be independent. And this is what I'm banking on. But for Herb, it's going to be a bit later, and he's getting there now. He's 13 now, and he's getting there. And he has ambition. He wants to do things, and I'm there to encourage him and push him on. I do this for all of it. I'm the person that pulls everybody up. I'm the one that come on, we can do this. So that's what I'm here for. I'm the great encourager. I'm the problem solver, and this is what I'm here for. I'm the guy cheering from the sidelines, but it's very hard. It's very hard for him. Whereas it's very easy. To her, she could do her GCSEs now and pass them all. The teachers have said so. She is academia for her is just easy. She just, she's a genius. When I held her in my arms, as soon as she came out, I said to the missus, this one's going to be able to do anything it wants. As soon as I held her in my arms, I saw the future. I had a vision. And that's where everyone says he's crazy, but I do. I have visions. And so it's interesting. Kids are fascinating. I love my kids so much, and I find children are really fascinating things. Again, this is somebody who I do not like other people's children. I'm not, but I would like to be a teacher. It's a shame. I wish I'd have kind of gone into teaching. I wish I'd have realised this a lot sooner. I can't really do it now because I can't really afford to go into teacher training. And I tried applying, but I've got to have 2 referees, and one of my referees died, and other people I've worked with, I can't seem to track them down. It's just so fucking hard when you've been out of the loop for nigh on 20 years, self-employed for like 10, it's can you write a reference for yourself? That'd be cool. But we don't have any secrets here, so we have a very open, frank, all of us, we discuss our problems, and so that's how we deal with it. Jason says, any thoughts on Steve Marritt's Humble Pie? Not really my scene, but I'm a big fan of Small Faces. So. Russell says, okay, flip the script and let me ask you, what do you think Steve Hackett would have sounded like if he had been Phil Collins as his vocalist? Well, now you're just being stupid. Oh, let's just block you because I know you are. Bye-bye. Russell says, when Peter Davison mentioned Adric in Doctor Who, that would have only made sense to old codgers like me. I pointed at the screen. You know the meme of DiCaprio going, that was me. He said it. He said Adric. It's important. I even briefed the kids about Adric before we watched the episode. Adric, he's the one that died. Yeah, so there you go. Briefed them. Andrew says, thanks, okay, I'll be buying it. You son of a bitch. Oh no, Richard Prono's in. Paul McCartney solo or with Wings. It's all the same, doesn't matter. And says, you get an interview automatically by law if you have a registered disability. Yeah, they can't refuse you. They have to be very careful how to refuse disabled people. People don't realise it. If you're again, a disabled person with no qualifications can't just rock up and demand an interview. But if you are a worthy candidate, you know, if you have, I don't know, a degree, say you want to work in computers and you've got a degree, a first class degree in computer studies, and they refuse to interview you, you have grounds. You have grounds to demand an interview. That used to be the law. I don't know if it still is, because I'm talking like, oh god, I'm talking like 20. Because I used to know all this like 25 years ago. Because I used to edit something called Disability Action on the telly thing. So I know about disability legislation, but it might have changed. So I've probably said something that probably doesn't stand now, but 25 years ago, I think that was the case. But anyway, don't prove me wrong, I don't care. Tom says, oh, you having a good week? Yeah, it's alright. It's alright. Anne says, good night. I may have a dissociative disorder or something. Thanks for the kind words. Well, if you're still here, Hans, and you do have a dissociative disorder, be very, very careful what you expose yourself to, because it's going to make it worse. Again, don't drink too much. Don't smoke any of those jazz cigarettes. Exercise, fresh air. If you've got a pet, have a pet. You know, have a dog. It will help you. It will centre you. I know it sounds odd. Even if you've got a goldfish, it will centre you, and it'll give you something to focus on other than these other things that you can get obsessed about. And hopefully you can work through it. You know. The thing is you won't necessarily know. I knew someone who had a dissociative thing, and he described it as, well, I don't even know sometimes. Sometimes I can be in the middle of something and I'll go, wait a minute, I'm having a phase, you know. So it's a tricky one. If you are seeing someone, good luck. If you're not, go and see someone, because if you've got one of those conditions, you could end up doing something really daft that you're going to regret. You know, you could either hurt yourself or, you know, do something, God knows, it can lead you God knows where. So just be really careful. And like I say, avoid the things that you know that might trigger you. And I mean real triggering, none of this fucking bullshit triggering stuff. You know, it's a problem. Cyrus says, I feel people with autism should be treated like everyone else, because to do things like treating them like a child is demeaning to them. Being mindful about their disability is definitely important. Yes and no. The thing about autistic people is they have a social vulnerability, which means that they are totally vulnerable to people that want to do them harm or want to get them to do things that they shouldn't be doing. They can be highly suggestible. They can also be highly independent. So when you say to them as a neurotypical person, look, I don't think you want to do this because you could end up, you know, in a bad place. They will say, no, I am an adult, I'm independent, I want to, you know, find out myself. And then if they come across the wrong person, well, you know, it's a whole heap of wrong. And it's difficult. It's a real difficult condition, especially adults with autism, because again, as adults we have autonomy, but we don't recognise, or we don't want to recognise, or those people can't recognise their own vulnerability. We all have vulnerabilities. How many times have you heard of people being catfished because they're lonely and they're looking for love? Well, it's the same with autistic people, because they are socially, obviously, sometimes they're socially excluded, and that's how people work on them, especially with online relationships and stuff like that. It can be it can be a minefield for them, So it's finding a balance, it's finding a compromise, and getting neurodiverse people to kind of see our perspective. But that's hard, because the perspective we want them to see is in the middle of their blind spot, But if we lived in a world where there were no people, who exploit, no exploitative people, then they wouldn't have that problem. And if the laws were such that, I mean, for example, when Herb's 18, he can do what he wants. He can leave. He can live any life he wants. And if he gets into trouble, this is the frightening thing in the UK. If Herb gets into trouble with the law, I've got no way of defending him, because he'll be an adult. So if he has an outburst on the bus and the police arrest him and they section him, put him in a mental hospital, there's a good chance I might never ever see him again. Because over here, they actively exclude parents from autistic children who are held in mental institutions. And that's something I'm deeply terrified of. And that is one of the national scandals that we are not talking about. Look it up. There's an awful big percentage of autistic children and adults that are held in mental institutions that have no access to their parents, because the government or the health trusts that are running those areas say no. And all rights have been taken away. All parental rights leave you when your child becomes an adult. And when you have a vulnerable adult, and again this extends out to people who have mental illness, to the elderly, to people who have dementia, you have no recourse to the law when you have a vulnerable adult in your life. And it's terrifying, and the law needs to be redrafted. There needs to be something put in place so that we can step in, we can act as proxy for them. But that's my future, and that's why I get vaccinated, so I can live as long as I can, so I can maybe guide my son to a life that he deserves, because he's a good boy. Joe says, a few of my favourite drummers, where are they? Oh, it's gone scrolling up the screen. Manu Katché, Jerry Marotta, Alex Acuna, Mike Borden. I hope you're one of those guys on the new PG album. Well, I think Manu Katché. I don't think he'll use Marotta again. Ah, boy. Grant says, I remember when I found ABWH cassette on the bargain bin, $5. My friend threw it back in the bin. I picked it up and said, whoa, indeed, it's a good album. People don't understand what it was like back in those times. There was no weird and wonderful music. It was really a fantastic record, and it still is a fantastic record. Hans says, thanks, I'm going to quit cigarettes, and I don't smoke anything else. And I'll quit beer too. And I have a lovely dog. Well, that's good. But if you're going to smoke, have a cigar. Have a pipe. Make it something and a treat at the end of the week, Treat it like that. Don't be an habitual, And also the tobacco that you get, the loose leaf tobacco is very different to the stuff in manufactured cigarettes. There's a lot more chemicals and whatnot, in like I say, in mass-produced cigarettes. So get yourself some loose leaf tobacco, smoke a pipe, or roll your own. That'll make you feel better. There's a hobby for you, rolling your own cigarettes. There you go. G-Man says, my son is 20 and autistic. Last few weeks he has started being fiercely independent. He now goes out for walks along the first time ever. Very stressful time. As a caring parent, he is vulnerable. Exactly. Well, we're in the same boat. But again, Herb walks home from school on his own. He goes to school with his sister, but sometimes they have after school clubs, and he's doing all that. He's better at crossing the roads than Verity is, So he's very sensible, but it only takes somebody to target, you know, because people can see. This is the thing. These sharks in our world can smell blood. They can see a vulnerable person, you know, from a mile away. And we can't protect our kids from those people. And that's the problem, you know. That is the problem. Well, it's not necessarily themselves, it's other people. Tom Pink says, Alex Kuna from the old Weather Report days? Don't know, he was still around. It's one of his favourites. You know, we've all got favourites. I know, it's just, we're doing that again because, you know, they're obviously bored. It takes all sorts, doesn't it, really? It's boring, isn't it? Here we are, having a sensible conversation, and we have an arsehole, you know? And this is their idea of fun. I don't know why, because all we do is block, you know? Don't you get bored of it? You tried to lead me with the conversation earlier with Kanye West, didn't you? You try. I know what you try and do. It's boring. Your strategies are too obvious, and you're boring. You bore me. You are so thoroughly boring and unimaginative. You're not even worth my time. Come on, up your game. Remember, and I say that so you make a mistake, because you will do. You always do, because you're not very smart. Yeah, the only person who thinks you're smart is yourself, and that's the worst kind of smart. Remember that. Pink says, how annoying indeed. Russell says, I don't smoke, but I love the smell of pipe smoke. So do I. Good cigar, mind, but a pipe. My granddad used to smoke a pipe. It takes me back, man. It takes me back. Oh boy, I mean, crikey. But yeah. Report hate speech. Yeah, let's report for hate speech. That'll do. I suppose that one's hate speech as well. Yeah, report for hate speech. Remember, you can report these people for hate speech. It doesn't do anything, but it feels kind of satisfying clicking OK on the button, because YouTube don't care. Pink says, would you agree a show like The Office, any version, couldn't be made today? There's no sense of humour, apparently. Well, the American version's pretty inoffensive, but again, sitcoms, you know, comedy shows are really suffering at the moment. We saw it with Friday Night Live. I watched it, and the funny bits were the old folks. Even though Joe Brand did like her act from the 80s, you know, it was good to see these people back on. You know, good to see Julian Clary back in the saddle, and Enfield doing Stavros and Loads of Money, which is weird because Loads of Money canonically is dead. They brought him back from the dead. And Ben Elton doing his thing, but Ben Elton was playing his cards very close to his chest, saying, oh, ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as cancel culture, ladies and gentlemen. But then worrying about being cancelled at the end because them using his material out of context. So, really, Ben, really. Everyone gets offended. It's boring indeed. You know, again, it's okay when things are really offensive, you know. Because the funny thing is, though, is people who are left-leaning comedians are quite happy to veer into racism and sexism and ageism because their targets to them are abhorrent, and it's okay to be racist, sexist, and ableist and whatever because I don't like that person. It's fun, isn't it? Because you can go so far left, you end up. Remember the horseshoe where the left and the right touch. That's where they end up. G-Man says, I know I had something to tell you. I watched a couple of other YouTubers' live streams. A couple of them had been having problems with closed profiles this past while. Well, there's a lot of loons out there. You know, this is it. It could be the same person. You never know. If it's similar to this, if they're doing, I don't know, similar material, don't name them because I don't want any grief to go their way. But I guess this is the new thing now. This is the thing that people do to get their jollies. Because isn't it funny? You know, if they're not doing that, they spam thumbs down me like it's engagement, you idiots. The YouTube algorithm loves it when you thumbs me down. It's the equivalent of thumbsing me up. I keep telling you, but you keep doing it. You make me relevant when you do that. You know, the best thing you can do to me is ignore me. It's like you coming on here, right, and doing all this spoof shit. This all acts as engagement. Even when I block you, this is engagement. It's the algorithm. If you want my channel to wither and die, don't interact with me. You're doing me a favour, you morons. So that's why I don't mind you doing this, because, you know, the algorithm goes, this guy's popular. Dirt. Oh dear. But yeah, it seems to be a thing now. And says, yes, tobacco smells great, but time to think about my blood vessels and lungs. Oh yeah, again, no good for you. That's why I said make it an occasional treat. If you need something to look forward to, I'm saying don't take up a pipe and be a chain smoker on a pipe, because that's not good either. But I do think pipe tobacco, because again, it's more about the experience. You're not smoking the same way. You've got to remember the mechanism, right? With a cigarette, it's going straight down. You're sucking at great volumes, right? And it goes straight into your lungs. With a pipe, it's a different kind of process. You know, I think that pipe smokers live longer. It's not scientifically proven, but I like to think that pipe smokers live longer than cigarette smokers. All right. You have my blessing, my son. Russell says there used to be a great old shop down the road that sold everything, and the shopkeeper smoked a pipe. Always remember that pipe smoke. Yeah, again, it's an old-fashioned thing. My granddad did it. I've smoked a pipe. It was my granddad's pipe. I had a little puff once. Everyone was out. Made me feel as sick as a dog. Never went back there again. But I did like the smell of it. I love the smell of tobacco. It's really, the loose leaf stuff. It's really weird. But I hate the smell of cigarette smoke. It makes me want to vomit. Pink says the horseshoe analogy is so true. Well, it's because it is. You know. Hey, our old friends in. See, more engagement, man. More engagement. Thank you for engaging with me. Andrew says, I think it's time for bed. He's going off to buy that Revolver box set. What's he going for? Is he going for the CDs, or is he going for the vinyl? The vinyl is very spicy. It's 170 quid. Ooh. And Jason's going as well. God, everyone's leaving me. Everyone's leaving. You lightweights. So we lost two of the old faithful. Any more? What else should we talk about? Because I can talk about guitars. Should we talk about guitars? Because I can talk about guitars for the next 10 minutes. Russell says we can talk about guitars for sure. Aaron says there's a distinct lack of Gibson headstocks. Well, nobody likes Gibson. What's my favourite humbucker? I can tell you, it's not what you think. Now you'd think it would be this monster, wouldn't you? You'd think it would be this one, because this one has all the humbuckers. Look at it. It has all the humbuckers, and I got this because this is like the equivalent of having a Gibson Black Beauty, but in a Fender. It is, trust me, it is. But you've got the tremolo bar, which is nice. But my favourite of the humbuckers is one that's going to come out of left field. It is a Squire. It's the Squire Purple Peril, as I call it. It's my silver sparkle purple one. All right, which was cheaper than chips when I bought it. And but the pickups on here, even though they're Squire pickups, they've got a real kind of presence to them that I really like. The last track on Fragments was recorded, the lead line was recorded using this. And I feel weird because it's a Squire, right? But I really like this. This guitar's got mojo. The opening. It's funny because the opening notes and the end of Fragments, my new CD. There's only 4 copies left if you want to order one. I think This guitar, it's got mojo, as they say, as the proper guitarists say. It's got mojo in it. It's got special secret sauce, even though it's a Squire. There you go. Let's talk guitars. Your Purple Peril. Pink says cigarettes smell awful. They do. Fancy a HH Jazzmaster. Yeah, again, that would be something, wouldn't it? But they only, because the Jazzmaster has the well, they are single core pickups, even though they look like they're humbuckers. They're not. They're single cores, but they're wound over a wider range. Whereas, if you can imagine, I sold my Jazzmaster because, you know, needed money. Teeth. Did I sell it for teeth? I can't remember. Might have done. But yeah, Jazzmaster pickups are wound differently, and so that's why it's got quite a unique, almost in some aspects, quite almost a hollow acoustic tone to it, depending on how you play it. You know what you got it running into. So yeah, there are single core guitars, but a Jazzmaster with humbuckers, that's a bit strange, isn't it? Aaron says, I saw a video of Mark Bolan, so how's it go? Very wonderful sound. I think it was Orange Amp. Bolan is one of the great underrated guitarists. Russell says, I like classic tuners too. Zero fuss indeed. Easy to string as well. And says, I forgot you had a Gibson Les Paul. I haven't. No Gibsons here. Russell says, I think the Squires have quite powerful pickups. They do. Squire and Tokai, just as good as Fender. Yeah, indeed. I think well, the Purple Peril's good, you know. Anyway, I can feel a bit of a tickle coming on, so I need a drink. I don't want to cough and splutter my way out of this. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good time. If you haven't, nothing I can do about it. Don't forget to thumbs up or down this video, because it's all engagement, folks. And we'll do this all again next time. And I'll do that Daniel Lanois play a piano review that you can all ignore. Please watch my review of the reissue of Dujovin Gasperin's Moonshines at Night. Please watch it, please, because it's an album I really like. People only watch the videos when I slag off albums, and then they moan at me for slagging off albums. You don't like any records. That's because you don't watch the videos where I like the records. Obvious. Anyway, thank you once again, and like I say, we'll do this all again soon. Remember, folks, if you can't be good, be safe. But more importantly, don't tell your mother. Drink it up. Oh no, it's the wrong video. Night night. Love you.